It's very cool.
And
And we are now live, just for the record.
we even hooked a motor. This is the motor we used. You guys will love this. I know when, Jeremy, when you and I were talking about this, and we were talking about the index gyroscopics, it's hard to visualize. I'm just going to plug a motor in this real quick. And you'll see, this is actually how the whole thing works. There's a little light on it. But if I turn it this way, it goes this way. It goes faster as I turn. If I turn it this way, it goes the other way.
Whoa.
So imagine that it doesn't matter how none of that matters. It can be any direction, but if they move their arm this way or that way, it causes the fingers to open and close at any speed that they choose.
That's pretty
right?
Cool.
And the entire thing, this will drive up. We've had it driving up to 6 motors. This is the recharger and everything. This little thing here is the recharger.
Nice.
And one charge will last, depends on how much they use it. The person that was wearing this said that it was lasting about 3 days.
Well, of course, it depends how much work they're doing.
Right. This particular motor is out of this is actually out of a power screwdriver. So you know how much
I recognize that motor.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the, actually, I'll take it out. You can see this is actually the planetary gears. And this is a 3.5 volt motor. I don't need to tell you how much torque this thing can generate, but we tested this with 5 motors. Yeah, it was 5. And with one board handling 5 motors was no issue. And they found it to be really easy to use because it was so natural to turn your arm that it gets rid of all of it just gets rid of everything. So when they go like this or like that, that's what causes the hands to open and close.
Well, we've said it before, Rick. I mean, we think you're doing really interesting work. The challenge is always, how do we get to the point where others can start to make some of the things that you're making? Because I think there are plenty who would like to, but they need, number one, proper instructions, either in the form of a document or a video, and they may need help finding the parts that they need. So I still am a little bit lost when it comes to this bionic stuff. I just don't know enough about it to create the kind of guidance people would need. So I don't know. We got to find somebody.
This was Harbor Freight. But what we did was we were down at now that I'm an old guy, I can go to the secondhand shop and I get a discount on tools. So we've been picking up broken screwdrivers, and then we take the motors, which I can't seem to get back together again. But any motor we've been able to adapt, and it hasn't been a real big deal.
Well, that's because you're Rick Williams, but it seems to me that most e-NABLE people are going to want to see a hand and say, I want to do that. And then they'll be able to get the kit from Jeremy, and then they'll be able to follow the instructions. Now, I'd like to go back to so I think the answer to Jeremy's plea is going to be for you to come up with a viable design that goes from soup to nuts, and then we talk about how to package that. And can we now go back to the bicycle chain?
Yes, why don't you show us the hand that you just tested again?
Okay, let's start with the finger. This is just one finger.
Yeah.
And I like this because of basically this thing is rated, believe it or not, at 2,200 pounds.
Okay, now slow down. Stop moving.
So let's talk about the components here. The chain is literally a bike chain, but I imagine you had to. How do you get one that's clean like that, not all greasy? Did you have to?
eBay.
Okay.
So
you can get like an unused bike chain, basically.
Right.
What is that made of? Is that like nickel or something?
we tried a bunch of different ones, and what we found was they make these racing chains, and as you can see, there's more holes in them. They have slots in the center to reduce the weight.
Oh.
And the holes themselves where the pins go, as you can see there, it goes all the way through.
All right. Is that
And
all
they did
there?
that to
That's what they're
eliminate
called?
weight.
It's called a racing chain?
A racing bicycle chain. I can get you.
Okay.
I actually have a package at home.
That's all right. Just want to know
I'm
what
at
it
the
is.
hospital right now. So
All right.
I
And then
have
what
the
are the springs that you're using on top? It looks like just small but longish sort of springs.
Exactly. I found those at Ace Hardware, and I've actually got the item number. I've actually got the part number for those.
And then
all
what's wrapped around it there?
That's just wire, and I solder it.
You solder it. Okay.
Yeah. Now, what's nice is we originally thought it'd have to be welded, but it does not. We found we can solder on this, and I've been able to build one of these fingers in about an hour.
Okay.
So
and then what are you? What are you using for your cord on the bottom?
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
That's just fishing line right now.
Okay.
We've been using guitar strings because they're much stronger and they can take almost a ton.
So there's something strong.
Yeah. But we use this because it bends a little more.
Yeah.
And this thing will actually grab like an octopus almost.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it grabs. And
is there anything else in there besides those parts we've talked about?
No.
Okay.
The chain itself actually has roller bearings in it.
Okay.
Right? So you've got your roller bearings. You've got, except for this wire is just, it's actually copper 20 gauge wire. But you got to get the copper because you can't solder the stuff that's tungsten or any other kind of material. You can't solder it. So I actually have the part number for that too. But this is really super simple to build. And
is the resulting part sort of semi-weatherproof? I mean, you can get it wet. You can get it. Wash it off if needed.
A bicycle goes through a lot. I mean, let's face it. This is, I believe, this is all made out of stainless. I believe. I could probably find out from the packaging, but oiling it, we haven't had this. This has been in salt water. For almost a month. Right, and we hooked it to an e-NABLE hand.
Oh, wait, Rick, slow down.
Wait, I want to grab the this thing real quick, because this is actually I'm going to do it wrong again. The Kuawu, and the motor goes right there.
So which Kuawu is this? Is this the Kuawu arm?
Yeah, well, this part is, yes. This is the arm, right? Now, I used the ARX because it was easy, and the ARX connects to the Kuawu.
It does, okay.
Yeah. Or I actually, right now, on my bench, I have the Kuawu hand.
Okay.
The only reason we didn't test the Kuawu hand because it attaches different, and the ARX attaches this way. So it was super easy to adapt this, right, the end to the hand. It was much easier. Now the Kuawu hand, it's not that bad. You just have to mod it with your little tool that you got me, Jeremy.
Or you could do it in CAD. Yeah,
you could, easily. But the ARX hand, it was just automatic. It just worked. So we just bolted it on there. The hand part only took a couple of minutes, and as you can see, it's just super fast. It's just amazing. And
you're not, it's interesting. You're not getting, usually when I've used springs like that, they end up where you get like some of the spring noise, and I'm not hearing any.
There isn't any.
Yeah.
And the reason
that's because of the wrapping.
There isn't any is because we got rid of the noise because they're actually laying right on top of the roller bearings.
Yeah, okay. And I think the fact that you're holding it down every half inch or so probably helps.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And what's interesting is this is actually way too long. We went to the longest we could go to get the worst performance possible, because you don't get, the longer anything is, of course, you're going to lose your mechanical advantage.
So the guy that did the testing for you, tell us about his limb difference. Is it sort of, he has no wrist, I take it, because he was using that sort of socket, it looked like?
Yes, he has a wrist, but he wanted to use a socket that he could put his snub in
Okay.
so he could work underwater.
Okay. And so tell us about the feedback you got from him.
He basically loved it, and he tried to break it. He was using it as a hammer. He was using it to break, they were underwater breaking, the crustaceans off of boat hulls.
Hmm.
And he was swinging a hammer. He was breaking all of those off. And he said the other guys couldn't do that because it was tearing their hands up.
So for the device that you made him, if he to actually use the device, is he using the elbow? How is he actually activating the fingers?
Oh, we had it bionic.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Bionic.
So tell us about how the bionics worked in this device. Do you have it there to show?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So does that thing that you showed us earlier, did that go like inside the hand or something?
Yeah. We'll just do that. I'm sorry, I'm in a car, guys. So this was the motor we used, and it got pretty wet. But
yeah, I would think so.
Okay, just went right in here, like this.
So it goes kind of at the front. Is that the front of the socket, basically? That's in front of his forearm? Okay.
Yeah, and what I did is I built this cool thing.
I mean, yeah, I would think that motor would be getting totally water.
We had it in plastic. We put a plastic bag on it.
Okay.
But we built this little cool thing.
Oh my goodness. Is that a differential?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we didn't want to build a whipple tree. Okay. The whipple tree, I love whipple trees, don't get me wrong. But when you're doing them with bionics, it gets in the way, right? Well, so we made a whipple tree with one whipple at each end.
But where does that go in the device?
It goes right in the hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. And then that's what bends the finger. That's what closes the finger. So what do you have the cords wrapped around those axles?
We put like a loop. It was like a gear.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like a big, the size would depend on how fast you want to go.
Yeah.
And we had this step down pretty good. We stepped it down pretty good to get the torque.
You get more power. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could control the torque by the size of the disc that you put on here.
And so he was activating the fingers by turning his wrist one way or the other.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And of course we didn't get any video of this in use, did we?
He did not.
That figures.
Yeah, he did not want to get involved in that. No photos, no nothing. Hey, I got to respect that, right?
I do too. Just for the record, if that ever comes up, just make sure that it's clear. We don't need their face in the video. I just want to see the device.
So what we did was we wanted to punish this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically were taking barnacles. He was smashing barnacles with it.
Pretty impressive.
And the only thing that we found was this spring here stretched a little bit. He said he caught it on a nail, and that's okay. It's real easy to change a spring, but that's the only thing that happened. It still works. It just doesn't look as good. And we didn't even cover this. We didn't not even cover this hand with anything. We usually put like a rubber glove on it or something, so it isn't as scary. But no, the thing just performed beautifully, and he used it as a hammer. He used it as a chisel. Yeah,
it really looks a lot like that scene in the Terminator right after he comes out of the flames and has all the flesh melted off. Yeah, it looks a lot like that.
This goes in here like this, guys, like that. So you can see the motor.
Yeah.
And then through the center, we put the pin that goes, of course, to this. That would be the drive here. And then these drive. It's a smaller version that was in the hand.
Okay, well that explains a lot.
Yeah, it was much smaller. We did not need it this big. This was our first one.
Yeah, it didn't look like that would fit inside.
Yeah, no, it did not.
You created that from scratch?
Well, we built it with we had the CNC machine make it.
My goodness.
Okay, pause.
Yeah.
And when I say pause, I mean pause.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in a car, so I apologize.
So this is a very special purpose device. However,
But we don't, I mean, we don't need the waterproof aspect, right? So we can
Oh,
kind
no,
of
no,
take
no.
that out of the equation.
We wanted the salt. We wanted to find out what the salt would do to it.
Yeah.
So Rick, you have this handy, pardon the expression. I would love to see what this looks like when it's functioning with a rubber glove on it. Because there are very few people who are going to, I think, in our group, who are going to wear this device as is, but as a robust bionic with a cosmetic sheath, it might be a really interesting thing.
So Rick, do you have all of the pieces back now? Do you have the socket and the hand and everything that you could actually put it together for next time, maybe, and we could?
It would. I could probably get it back together. Yeah, we disassembled it because he had some complaints.
Well, good. That's the point of the process. But if you're able to, it would be helpful next week to see the thing function, put it back together. I assume you have some of those magician's gloves we've talked about laying around.
I wanted to talk to John about that because John, didn't you have somebody where you could get those, the gloves that were relatively realistic looking?
Yes, they were from a supplier in India, but they can be had.
Yeah.
And I'll look into that, but just
I'd be interested in learning more about that too, John.
Okay. I'll check old mail from Prashant and see where we're at on that.
The other thing we had, he wants haptech. So that's why we took it apart. He said one of the problems he was having is he was crushing stuff. And so we figured out a way to do the haptech. So it'll actually tell us how much strength he's using. And he can back it off a little. Because I'm going to tell you, that motor doesn't stop. I mean, it just doesn't stop. We had some crush strength.
I'm sure you've got better ideas than I do, but it just occurs to me, since you're using those power screwdriver motors anyway, a lot of the power screwdrivers have an adjustment for where where the torque cuts off, so it won't put any more torque than whatever your setting is. I wonder if you could just use that to set it to a scale of 1 to 10, and that way that's how much torque it'll give you.
Probably. There's a million ways to do it. What we're doing is we're taking the actual cords, and what we're going to do is we're going to put like a pulley on it, and as it pulls and the spring gets stretched, it's going to tell us, the little motors like in your phone that rattle, right?
Yeah.
To make your phone vibrate. We're going to put those in the cuff. So the tighter it goes, the more it'll rattle. Right? And then he can feel it in his whole arm.
Rick, again, you're the expert, but I would just think about a mechanical coupling such that the tighter the cable, the more pressure there is on the residual stump. So he has analog feeling of the pressure.
We're trying really hard not to let anything mechanical touch the person, because that's where you get in trouble with everybody, including the FDA. That's why it's so hard to get some of this stuff through. As soon as you have anything that's electronic or mechanical touching the individual, anything can be done. We just avoid anything. That's one of the reasons we like the gyroscopics, because nothing has to touch it.
I think that's brilliant. But you do have the cuff touching the arm. If, for example, the cuff just got tighter and tighter under the influence of the pressure being exerted, he would have a very real, just as when I'm doing a wrench and it's getting really hard, there's exactly the pressure against my hand that there is against the bolt. And that's sort of how I know what's going on. All right.
I think the builder should have the freedom to do whatever works best for that individual.
Rick, it doesn't do much good to say this to you, and I love everything you do, but the builder, when you say the builder, you mean someone like you. There is no one like you in the e-NABLE community. I know, because I've been here for 10 years. anything that's going to get adopted by the e-NABLE community is going to be normalized. And Jeremy and I are watching what you're doing with wonder, and we're looking for the opportunity to say, freeze that. Let's make that a thing.
We're trying to figure out how to fit this into a simplified, very standardized kind of a model. Like, for example, when you were going through your overview and you said, well, I just go and, pilfer an old screwdriver and then we adapt it. Most of the people in our community are not comfortable with adapting things. You got to give them the right part that's going to fit right in, and they can just follow the instruction. You know what I mean? So we have to figure out a way of taking what you've done and taking all of the sort of the parts where you had to improvise, taking that out of it and making it into a very, standard.
Jeremy, I will say, I've looked into these little motorized screwdrivers, and there's a huge amount of equipment in there. And because they are mass-produced products, they're quite cheap and robust.
Yeah.
And if your kit included an off-the-shelf screwdriver and instructions for pulling the motor out,
well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's one way that we could potentially standardize things.
Harbor Freight, right?
That's what we need to figure out. So
I'll work with you guys. We were just trying to solve a problem, and this was number one. This is the only one of its kind, and it was last time we spoke. This thing was out. It was out being tested.
Right.
We wanted to find out what was going to happen. I had no idea.
Rick, can you promise to try to remember to take some video of a reassembled hand in its various stages? So let us see it naked, opening and closing. And then let us see it gloved, opening and closing, and maybe give it, a beer can to hold and then crush.
Oh, it'll do it.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you about the glove.
Rick, do you have something like this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just set it on your desk in front of you, put your smartphone in there while you're doing the reassembly, just let it run. I'd be happy to help you edit it down to a little clip later if you want.
As you can see though, this is so simple to build. I mean,
for you.
And if you're in a third world country where you
Rick,
don't have...
If you want to do some video in which you have the raw parts laid out on the table, and you put a finger together, and then you jump to where you attach the finger to the XR hand, and then you jump to where I'm not asking you to make polished video. I'm asking you to make enough video that someone can.
Just don't assume that it's obvious. Even the parts of the process that seem totally simple and obvious to you, we want to show it. It just makes people more comfortable to see it.
Now, one of the things we were also doing was we were getting much smaller motors. We found these motors, these little ones. We actually found them on Amazon, and they're about $11 a piece.
Okay.
And they have a gearbox built right into them. Right? They're awesome. The problem right now we're having is we really don't know how many RPMs is optimal at 3 volts because you don't have a lot to play with. Right now, we've got some coming that are 200 and some that are 100 RPM. That should be enough that we could play with the gearing. And we put one in each finger. We didn't actually have them on fingers. We had them running independently. But they work beautifully with this same module. It's the same module, right? And the module itself is dumb. All it does, it cares about, which is great. Yeah, that's it. Now, the indexing would be like we could reprogram, in my mind, we could reprogram the microbit. And we could say, well, I want it to be these 2 fingers. Like, let's just say somebody wanted, they actually wanted to make, 2 fingers, but leave the other ones out, the other 3 out. So you could like say 1, 2, like that. 2 quick jerks. Okay, that would programmatically set it up to where only 2 of the motors would engage and the rest of them be left alone.
Well, that would let you do different kinds of grips. You
right.
Could do a pinch grip.
And the reason we don't like servos, I don't like servos. First off, they're too weak. They're in grams, right? That's silly. It doesn't lift enough. These things will lift pounds, right? And wherever you park them, that's where they stay. I cannot physically turn this. I can't. I even put a wrench on it thinking I could, I can't. When you park this thing, say with a finger wrapped, you stop, that's where it stays. That's cool, right? That's awesome, because that means you could park it, disengage that motor, and you're using zero power. It's not like a servo that has to be powered all the time.
As much as I'm enjoying the talk, we are going to have to move on to some other topics here. So John, let me have you get in the last word on this.
Right. Rick, one thing to keep in mind is that if, for example, we can do that video that shows anyone just how to make a hand-like motorized thing, that's the way you can get other people building up the skills you're talking about. But you need to give them something where they say, that's really cool, I want to do that. And they don't need to learn all of the stuff that made it possible for you to do it. They just need to follow the instructions. And then you have a community of fiddlers, and they can try different motors and so on and so forth. So
that's fine.
So in fact, and I'll tell you right now, this kind of a thing will be very popular in classrooms as well as just to the general part of our community. So when you're doing the video, think young kids, you know, like you're talking to, you know, grade schoolers or high schoolers, and that's the kind of you know, overview we want. Very
well. I'm going to refit the Quahoo. I've got it on my bench now that I've got all this input from this guy. And I'm going to put these fingers on the Quahoo because I think there's more people that are familiar with that. So I'm going to go ahead and fit that in. I will try by next week to have the Quahoo hand working. I just don't know if I'll have it motorized.
Well, yeah, I mean, the trick with that is you're going to have to physically modify that,
yes,
which we want to avoid. So to use that as our sort of standard basis, we'd want to find somebody that can help us with an actual CAD modification of the
right now. All we want is call it a proof of concept kit.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. I'll remind you that when the very first 3D printed prosthetic came out, it was very primitive and ridiculous looking, rather like the thing that you did. But because people could download it, print it, and assemble it, it took off. So we're not looking for everything right. We're looking for everything replicable.
Okay.
All right. See what you can do, Rick. See what you can do. We'll revisit it next week.
It's on my bench, and we'll give it a try. If nothing else, at least we can display how the motors work.
Well, so we've got some other things to go through, and I'm not going to. Today was supposed to be a discussion entirely about our Lumio voting process, and I think we'll probably hold off on that just because number one. No, not because of that, Rick. Just because I noticed that Adam isn't here, and I'd really like him to be part of that discussion. So and Ben, if possible. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to join these on a Friday morning now, but. Let's hold off on that for at least another week. I at least want Adam here for that, but we have other things here. In terms of action items, I went in and I went to create that email that we need to send out for the chapter audit. And I was greeted with a little surprise when I tried to log into our benchmark account. It says that our account is expired. Our account expired NAN days ago. Some sloppy coding there. And then when I click that link, it takes me to a renewal screen. And it looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, I guess they were giving us a free account, but we were paying $5 for the image hosting service, which I assume is $5 a month. It doesn't say explicitly. John, is this card in here? Is that an e-NABLE card, or is that your card?
That's a good question. Hang on. What are those numbers shown?
It ends in 6773.
Well, it's not a current password, credit card.
Well, I guess in either case, let's take the opportunity to change this. You have now an e-NABLE debit or credit card, right?
I do.
So let's put that in there and we can get this activated again.
Okay.
Are you able to stay on today through the end of the meeting? Can we just do it at the tail end?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do that once we're off air. So anyway, that stopped me. So once we get that reactivated, I just need to draft an email that we can send out to them. And I think I already have the language for that. We'll try to get them to fill out our survey.
By the way, that is 6773 is
Yes.
in fact the current credit card
For e-NABLE?
for e-NABLE.
Oh, okay.
I'm comfortable telling you the CVV is 382.
I don't think it's not even asking for that right now, but you're okay with this then, $5, which I assume is monthly?
It's a bargain.
Okay, so purchase now. Let me just make sure this goes through. Maybe I timed out here. We'll see. Oh, okay, we're good. Thank you, John. So now I can get in there and get that email going. All right. So that'll stay on there for me. Still need to figure out how to get logged into that new matching platform. I didn't put any time in on that this week. I got to reach out to Thierry, get some details, see if they have any updates on their code. We'll have to talk to Adam about getting our new leadership team together, but I don't think that's really gone anywhere. We've had a very hard time coordinating schedules. I'm not really sure what the next step is there. I feel bad that he hasn't been able to get responses from everyone. The annual report. So John, you and Ben sent me an email that I have not gotten to yet. I think you're waiting for me to do a final review. Is that right?
Well, I'd say it's 75% done. We've marked off the last page or so, which still needs working, but I would like your input and feedback. And the truth is that when Ben and I dig in together, it happens. And
I will say this, the one thing that caught my attention when I first opened it up is for this to be an annual report, it seemed odd for me to have Q4 listed.
that's fine.
So I would take out the Q4 to say this is the 2022 annual report.
Okay.
But the overall, I think the layout is beautiful. I really like how you guys put this all together. I haven't read it word for word. I was waiting for you to give me, I requested edit access because I don't even have comments. But the only things I saw scrolling through it were little like extra spaces that we need to take out, but otherwise it's looking really good.
Right. Well, that kind of copy editing is welcome, but not necessary.
Okay.
When you read it, see if there are other events you think we should be mentioning. And for the latter pages, there are comments that you'll see as soon as I make you an editor, you would be welcome to put in hints and provide
Sure.
little
Yeah,
bits.
I'll take a look.
And
There's
that
something
goes
weird.
for you too, Sarah Gelbard.
There's something weird going on with the page numbering. We've got 7 of 6 and 8 of 6. Okay, so yeah, I'll just give me edit access and I'll go through that final pass, but it looks really good.
Can someone share this with me?
Yes, I have done, but we're gonna review.
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
Make sure you're sharing it with her Sarah at e-NABLE.org address, John.
Yeah, I'm checking that now.
Okay, I'm going to move on while John's doing that. So I think we're good on action items. So thank you to Rick for putting together our summary of metrics today. It's all looking good and doesn't look to me like anything really stood out as unusual. Our e-NABLE fund is getting into the range where we want to think about, more fundraising. I know we have at least one, hopefully, recurring donation coming, but I think, we're getting into that territory. We want to think about new sources of funding, I think. I didn't collect any posts of note from the hub this week, only because I was trying to leave time for that other discussion. But I'm going to move on to our events here because I have a bit of a dilemma. John, I need your help here. I believe I was supposed to have kind of taken over the focus follow-ups, and I just realized that that's on the schedule for today. Was I supposed to have come up with a speaker and topic for this month? Because I didn't.
I wish I knew.
Okay. I think I dropped the ball.
You don't know the answer to that either, do you?
Sarah, you don't know, do you?
I don't know.
I think I probably dropped the ball. I think I was supposed to have found somebody to present this month, and it just didn't even occur to me until I saw it on the calendar today. And as it turns out, I have a large shipment arriving today by freight that I'm going to have to be there for, which is coming right during the time of this meeting. So I think I'm going to have to skip this focus follow-up if nobody has strong objections.
I think that's fine. And, yeah, I think that's just fine.
But I will try to find somebody for next month to present. I am keenly aware of the fact that we are at risk of losing some of the momentum we had from Ben's hard work on these meetings and our monthly schedule, which we still haven't done for October. So I do want to really try to keep these things going. He worked so hard to get these
Sarah
processes.
and I have not done a good job of connecting either.
Yeah, it's hard getting these new routines in place, but I will try to find somebody for the next month focus follow-up. I'm going to put a note on the hub that we're going to cancel this one, and that'll actually help me a lot. So I apologize for not seeing that sooner, but on we go. So what's our next recurring meeting then? Let me just see. I guess if I go to the hub and go to our calendar, I guess that's the easiest way to see for right now. So next up, we're going to have the Bionic design meeting next Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So that'll be our next, aside from these town halls, it looks like that's our next one coming up.
And do we have something on the agenda for that?
That one is Vivek. So I honestly don't know anything about it, but I assume he will do his usual meeting. I joined the last one to talk about kit possibilities, and I've been gathering information in that spreadsheet since then, but I want to give it more time for people to contribute before I rejoin that group to kind of share the results of that collection.
Well, this is where the ball gets dropped. I think Vivek has been relying on Ben.
Oh, okay.
Recently to fill the gaps. And obviously that's not happening.
Okay.
I'm gonna, so as is the style for this meeting, I want to see if we can't solve this right now. Rick, a week from now, do you think you could walk us through in a somewhat organized fashion what you showed us earlier?
Well, uh-oh, did we just lose Rick?
I don't think so.
Oh, your video just
went
away.
out, but that's okay.
Hold on, I must have,
I've
got a setting, hide non-video participants. Let me take that off. That was, okay. I don't know if this is something we need to talk about off air, but in past discussions, it seemed like there was something weird between Rick and the rest of the Bionic people. Like they didn't like your approach or something. I didn't fully understand what it was, but it doesn't seem like you.
Yeah, it's not good.
The chemistry was not good. That's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't get that because it seems like you're doing really cool stuff, and I would think that those kinds of ideas would be welcome. So I don't fully understand that, but yet that I guess maybe we want to be careful about.
All right then. Okay.
I'm sure they would push back as well.
Well,
I don't
fine.
get that.
All right, I'm not going to put my foot in it. Let me try again. Sarah, have you met Vivek?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. No, I have not.
Okay. I think it's time for us to reach out to Vivek and remind him. When I say we, I mean you.
Yes.
Hi, Vivek. I am the new Ben Rubin, and I'm trying to organize the November calendar. What do you have lined up for the next Bionic meeting, which is such a date and such a time, I think a week from today? If I can be of any service, and in any case, it would be nice to meet you. Yes. And I think we need to get you doing that kind of thing proactively for all of these things, because it's time to really try to get the gears meshed.
Are there, is this, okay, so this document does this have contact information for everyone?
No, but if you ask, I can give you Vivek's contact information. And you should
Okay.
ask him to give you an orientation. Anyway, we'll go through this. In fact,
Okay.
if you don't mind, Jeremy, while we're here, Sarah,
Yes.
I did send you a request to meet.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
didn't work.
I saw, I'm sorry, I saw it, I just saw it on my personal email, which I don't check very often, and then I saw it this morning.
That's okay. When can we
For
meet?
e-NABLE. We can meet, just give me some available times, and I'm pretty flexible. So.
Okay. Let me just look at Monday's calendar. Hello. Okay, Monday, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Eastern.
Yes, that works for me.
Okay,
Okay.
and I'm sending it to Sarah at e-NABLE. And I'm not gonna bother inviting Ben because that's not gonna work. And I'm adding a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And I'm sending it. Please confirm receipt and by accepting the invitation.
Okay.
All right, folks, I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and wrap up unless anybody has anything else here. We can keep today's just a little bit shorter, if that's all right, and regroup next week. Does anybody have anything that needs to be discussed today?
No, Sarah, I'm wondering if you're free now for a while.
Yes, I am free now. I also have so this week's posts on the hub, are we saving that for later, or?
Well, Jeremy just suggested that we skip that portion of today's program, but is there something in particular you want to talk about?
It was a lot of, it seemed to be, the post this week seemed to be interest in starting new chapters, and
we can spend a minute on that,
so.
Sarah. I was going to skip it only because I thought we were going to spend the whole time talking about that other topic, but let me just pull up the report again here and we can look real quick at what those popular posts of the week were. So as far as most commented posts, we've got, let's see, somebody looking for an estimate of how long it takes to customize a prosthetic to a person, which is, of course, it depends. Either your questions make sense. We're not talking about the same thing. All of our devices are bespoke. Trying to get a baseline of time currently required to compare if a new design could reduce the customization time. How much time?
Terry, I think, has responded to this one.
Yeah. Nothing. Most of the time, it's merely a matter of computing a scale factor that we put. Yeah. Okay. So this is somebody that maybe doesn't really fully understand how we customize our devices, and that's being addressed. Whoops.
I believe that's the guy that's doing the classroom study to understand how we do things. I believe that's him.
Okay.
It's Kyle, and there's a young lady too that's in his class, and they actually had me fill out a whole interview. They gave me like a 2-page questionnaire that I filled out. I think I sent you a copy as well, Jeremy, of the end result of that. But I think it's something they're doing for their school.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like they've already gotten some pointers in the right direction. Stephanie here is from the Dominican Republic. Very curious if there's other Dominicans. Science teacher and 3D printer, very recent hobbyist. We have a 3D printer at school, already been green-lighted to move forward, trying to learn as much as I can, work with my students. We've set a goal of 6 months to produce our first hand or arm. Same time, stay in contact with the local children's hospital to find a recipient candidate. Hope I can learn lots and pass it on. And let's see, getting some responses from Vakil and James. Okay. I don't know. I'm not. Anyone have anything to add here?
Well, Sarah, is this one of the ones you noted?
It was, and I noted. Yeah, I saw that there were some some good comments. One that has no comments. So Ronnie's post.
Okay, well, hold on this one.
Okay, yeah.
On this one, a little bit of glue, which is an important part of your function, would be great. Vakil helpfully reminds us that that Stephanie is from the DR, that we do have a group that Dean Rock and others have done quite a bit of work in Dominican Republic, and there's a new Enabling the Future article on that.
Okay.
But we can also, so I think
I'd say that's their best starting point.
that is the best starting point. And you could also say we can put you in touch with Graviel in the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
In fact, I think we should just Sarah, you should find Stephanie's email
Okay.
from the hub,
Okay.
find Graviel's email from me, and write a
Okay.
note to Stephanie saying, let me introduce you to your fellow Dominican who is involved in this kind of an activity. And that's sort of what you do, is you sort of just help these linkages develop.
Okay.
Okay, and then you said there was one here from Ronnie. Let's pull that up. Computer science and engineering teacher at Crestwood Preparatory College in Toronto. A few of our students are extremely interested to start lending a helping hand through e-NABLE. I believe our first step is create a test hand and submit photos and video for approval, but not sure how. Would you be able to shed some light on this? I would just link them over to our new members dashboard. If you
Okay.
link them over to this page or the extended version, which you can find at the bottom of this post, you could link them straight to the Launchpad, I suppose. This has everything they need. In fact, there's a special section here for a school group that will help them get started. So I would just
Okay,
link them
great.
over to this page.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
And then if they need any more help, they can always reach out to our help desk. We've got a bunch
Okay.
of links we tend to share with classroom inquiry sort of people. Okay, were there any others in particular, Sarah, that you thought we should talk about?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up then. I'm going to stop the live stream and we'll see you next week.
Are you able to leave